What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to Talkin Shock. I'm your host, Alex Kaloje. As always, usual destination for college football betting. Today, we're going to take a step out and talk some bases with Baltimore Orioles writer Eric RDT from Barstool Sports. What's going on, my man?
Hey, how you doing, Alex?
Hey, I'm doing great. You've been quite the hot commodity here with podcasting. Previously this week on Yuppie Junk, which is Barstool JJ's podcast, and frankly, he started the podcast off the same way I wanted to start the podcast off, and talking about Barstool, a site that has grown pretty astronomically over the last year or two per se. Just kind of backcheck if you can, Eric, stuff that you said with this podcast, where you're at right now with Barstool, how you got there, the process, and, the whole 9 yards with that, if you can.
Yeah. Like I was telling him, I went to Talkin. I majored in mass communication with a track in journalism, wanted to be a sports writer. I figured, I watch sports all the time. I mean, if I'm not watching it, I'm playing it. If I'm not playing it, I'm reading about it, And I figured, I said, I've been around some sports writers before. I worked at a basketball camp with Dave Dupree, used to be an NBA writer for USA Today. So I've talked to him a little bit, decided to dive into that. I ended up going to like a kind of a career job fair thing at Towson and met a guy named Chris Jones, who was working for Russell Street Report at the time, which is a Ravens website. He had mentioned to me that they were looking for writers for the Orioles gig. And I'd never done an internship, never had any previous real writing experience except for my classes. Talked to him about that. He got me lined up, ended up writing for Utah Street Report for, I think it was right around the middle of the 2013 year. Wrote about them the rest of that season. And at the end of the season, I think it was like November, it was kind of like right around this time 2 years ago, Barstool DMV had just started up. Prez had mentioned that he was starting it. I saw Nate's blog, and Nate had asked about, anyone's a Ravens fan, shoot me over some articles and stuff like that. He was looking for a Ravens writer. And I kind of just went completely opposite. And I emailed him and said, hey, I don't like the Ravens. I live in Baltimore. If you need an Orioles guy, let me know. And he said, yeah, once it gets closer to baseball season, we'll talk. Keep chatting with me. Keep sending me your articles from Utah Street, because I think he said he had seen some of my stuff before, living around the area and I guess reading about the different sports. And yeah, next thing I know, it came closer. I kept hitting him up and he said, hey, if you want to be Mario's guy, you got it.
Wow. Yeah, it's pretty surreal, man. And you made a great point in the podcast talking about sports media and sales. And then I'm just going to paraphrase this and tell me if I'm wrong, but you made a slight little knock to sports journalism and pretty much saying that if you wanted to start in the career path with beat writing or journalism, that you have to start with sixth grade girls basketball. I mean, and that is kind of the creed. You hear from people all the time, if you want to start doing this and you have to start somewhere small, it's almost like you're just destined to start at the bottom of the chain. But but at the same time, Eric, you kind of beat the system. If I'm wrong, but would you say that you kind of just made that jump past it and didn't even have to go through the motions there and just kind of landed on Barstool doing what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Like I said, I had a buddy who, he went to Maryland, a bigger school than Towson, great school, in the journalism program, and he got a job right out of college. Him and I had been talking. I told him I was with Barstool, and he said, yeah, it's really tough to find jobs out here. It's it's kind of tough, and he ended up latching on with like a local county paper. And so, like I said, like he's now writing for, local football, JV football, varsity. He's kind of covering all the high school stuff. But yeah, I mean, you kind of do, I don't want to deter anyone or kind of push them away from that. But sports writing now is different than it was 10 years ago. Because, anyone can start a blog, anyone can start a podcast. And that's great. I love it because you can, like you said, you have all these different takes and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess I did kind of, jump the line, I guess, and kind of fall into Barstool. I mean, if it was a month earlier or a month later, I may not have, Nate may have been getting, just all these interviews and stuff getting thrown at him. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I did kind of jump it.
Yeah, that's too funny. And the funny thing is, I can speak for example because I wanted to say I was maybe 10 or 11 months. This was about 10 or 11 months ago. I was maybe 3 or 4 months into my quote unquote writing path, and I've heard from a number of people who said, get started with the school paper. It's a good way to get ahead. So, and I emailed the editor at my school at Eastern Illinois, and he got back to me, told me to come in, meet him. At this point, I'm all, fired up. So I go in there about a week after exchanging contacts, and, I'm telling him I cover football, I could do baseball, I can do basketball. And, after about a 10 or 15 minute spiel, I'll tell me what I can do and stuff. He looks literally through like the windows of my soul, and he's like, I think you would be great at covering women's tennis.
Yeah.
And I just, and I've never been so furious in my life. And the funny thing is I'm not an awkward guy, and I don't like saying no to people. And for a split second, my first thought was just tell this kid like, yeah, dude, my grandma like just died. So I was just like, that was like for maybe a half a second, that was the first excuse that came to my mind. And he's like, and he's like, do you have any experience in tennis? And I'm like, yeah, I could do I had some a nasty backhand and Wii, haha. And he's like, and just like stood there like I murdered his dog. I mean, it was the most awkward, but it was the first time that I was really just kind of mad and almost, it's just a weird feeling coming in, because I mean, there's no doubt that I can just go out, and play the hot corner and bat fourth for the baseball team here, let alone cover a doubleheader versus Austin P. But I mean, and that's what it is. And the thing that's great with what you do, Eric, is that you've developed your own style and doing what you want to do, obviously. And if you guys want to catch Eric's stuff, you can do it at Barstool Sports DMV, where he covers the Baltimore Orioles. And let's talk about these O's a little bit, Eric. Obviously a little bit disheartening not being able to catch some playoff baseball, but still a team that made a giant leap from 2013 to 2014, one of the more fun teams in the nation to watch in terms of the MLB. And I think when you look at the AL, particularly in the East, some teams that made the push towards the middle parts of October, when you look at Toronto acquiring Price and Tulo, and you get the Yankees getting Tanaka and Pineda healthy, kind of propelled them into the middle part of October. So what's the deal with the Orioles then, per se, for you? Was there a turning point or a crux where you just kind of had to sit there and think, okay, I think this is when the wheels are coming off? Or was there a series or a time that you could pinpoint where you just thought, okay, I think things are going to hell? Yeah,
it was almost like there were two instances that jumped to mind when you say that. It was it's two different things. It's the entire season series. They played the Twins. They played them 8 times. They lost all 8. So you got to think if they go 4-4, if they go 5-3, maybe 6-2, and beat the Twins like they probably should have, then I mean that put them into the wild card game. That right there. Then they also had that stretch. It was right after the Mets series, the mini 2-game series they played in Camden Yards. I think it was late. It was like mid-August, late August. They had the Henry Urrutia walk-off home run to put them, I think, I wrote about this last night. I think it put them at 62-57, and then they went on to lose 15 of the next 18. And that kind of buried them right there heading into early September. They couldn't, I mean, they had dug their hole. By that time, Toronto had just sped past them at that point. And they had kind of sped past the rest of the league and had taken off from there. But those two times, it's kind of when, you can look back and go that, if they win, like I said, in that 18-game stretch, if they go 9-9 or 10, if they win 10 or 11 of those games, then they're probably still playing right now. So, it was a disappointing year. But the last 3 or 4 years have been great. I think I read that them and the Yankees are the only two teams not to have a losing season since 2012. And from the last 14 years before that, watching terrible baseball, watching David Segui and Sidney Ponson and Brad Bergeson and Marty Cordova, guys like that, it's fun to watch. Like I said, I'll never complain about a 500 season. It's not what I wanted, but like I said, I've seen. We've been to the bottom of the valley, so it's neat to see where they are now. It's neat to see the primetime games, things like that, and people actually respecting the Orioles now. They're not a punchline anymore.
Absolutely, and I'm not one to butt in on somebody's team. I'm not going to sit here and try to spit O's talk on your level, obviously, because you know this team better than anyone. One of the things that really just kind of stuck out at me in 2014 was the pitching staff, and that there was no real big arm. It was just consistent guys with Tillman and Gonzo and Gosman and Chen. And the one point that I was looking at coming into the season was if they could keep that up without having a big arm in the rotation. And I think when you look at the AL East again, with the arms that there are now, with obviously Price, Tanaka, Pineda, and then even with Archer and Alex Cobb, if he's healthy, the offseason obviously coming up and whatnot, is what's the plan? Is do we need a big arm? Or what? And I know, and the frequent tweet from you is signing Crush Davis. Dollar signs, just $100 signs in every tweet. Take me through what your dream off season would be in terms of getting a specific player, or what you want to see filled in Camden Yards.
All right, I think at this point I think they have to bring Davis back, and not even just for his potential on the field, because like I said, we've seen him at his worst, and in last year when he was batting 210 with 25 home runs, and then he gets busted for his Adderall. We saw him then, but then you can see just how good of a player he is this year, and he's a top 5 first baseman in the league, maybe top 3 around there. He has Gold Glove defense. He loves the team. The team loves him. He loves being here. I think you have to bring him back. Plus, if you don't bring him back, it's you lost Nelly last year. You lose Markakis last year. What is that showing the younger guys, like a Jonathan Scope or a Manny, where if they can't even stick around, or what are they going to do? What are the O's going to do when Gossman hits free agency? Are they going to let him walk too? You're building the foundation now. I think Davis has to be here. I would like to keep Gerardo Parra. I like what I saw out of him. He didn't have the best. He didn't put up the numbers he was putting up the first half. But I like him in right field. You could put him in left. He plays any of the corner outfield positions. He's a perfect leadoff guy. You could put him at leadoff. Slide Manny to 2, which is they kind of did the opposite this year when with Manny at leadoff. I'd like to. You have to bring some new guys in. Chen's gone. Chen had a great Oriole career. He was a lot of fun to watch. Gave up a lot of home runs when he was here. But it seemed like he always toughed it out. He wanted to finish that inning. He was almost like a quiet bulldog. He would grind out his outings. I liked him, but he's gone. I think someone else has to leave, because you can't just replace one of these guys from the rotation, because the rotation was just so bad this year. Like you were saying, with how good it was last year, that's how bad it was this year. They're not going to get a David Price. They're not going to get a Greinke. That's just not who they are. They're not going to go out and spend that money. That's why I was saying, maybe a guy, not a tier down, but a tiny step down, like a Jordan Zimmerman. I know that, if they sign him and Davis, it's throwing a lot of money out there. But do you go out and get a guy like Jordan Zimmerman, who has shown what he can do? We saw him last year with the Nats. He took a step back this year. Even a guy like, Yovani Gallardo, someone like that who can come in and not necessarily, be the ace. I don't really like that term. I hate, I think it's pointless. But they need a guy, because Chris Tillman, he's not a number 1. The Orioles right now, they're filled with 2s and 3s. They have some pieces in the minors, like a Mike Wright, who kind of showed that he's probably going to be more suited for the bullpen from what we saw out of him this year. Tyler Wilson looked good out of all the young guys. Gossman he's young. He still has a lot of time to kind of blossom into a number 1. But I do think that you got to improve your corner outfield. I think you have to bring Davis back, and you have to go get a pitcher. We saw it this year. The O's had over 200 home runs again, but here they are. They gave up 100 more runs this year than they did last year. So the pitching was obviously, that was a downfall if you look at it. I know the O's, their hitters went through some streaks where they didn't score for 26, 27, 28 innings, and that sucks. And you obviously can't win a game if you're not scoring. But you also can't win a game if, by the 5th inning, you're down 4-0, 5-0, 6-0 every night. So I think Davis and pitching I think those are the two big priorities. You got to do something. You can't just sit around and say, oh, well, maybe if we throw Miguel Gonzalez out there again, he won't throw meatballs over the plate like he did this year.
Yeah, you talk about Chris Davis, a guy that's consistently hitting, 36 to 38 home runs a season, and a guy that's just been, I mean, he's just a foundation for vines and what is it, gifts and chips. I mean, he's just hitting,
anytime he's at bat, you're going, you know what? He could hit this ball 440 feet. He could hit, and that's the thing. I mean, it seemed like every time this year, I know he struck out over 200 times. I think he set the Oriole club record, but I'll take those 200 strikeouts every time if he's going to give me 260 and 47. He should have had 53 home runs. He had 5 robbed this year, 5 over the fence robbed. So, I mean, like I said, I think he's one of the most exciting players in baseball. He's just been great. Most home runs in baseball since 2012. Like, guys, he's a freak. He's a freak.
Yeah, and you definitely want to replace it, or definitely don't want to replace a guy like that and bring a guy like that, with that energy and a guy that really just acts as a glue for that lineup. Prototypical big first baseman that could just hit dick bombs. So, you pretty much said it pretty well, Eric. Let's talk about you and your fandom with the Orioles. Obviously, you probably loathe every other team in the majors, but let's talk about the neighbors and the Washington Nationals. I'm going to make this as simple as it can be. What's the scoop with National fans and Oriole fans? Is it a real heated rivalry? Is it something that might be a little bit over the top and people just kind of pretend like it's a rivalry? How is it over there out in the East?
Well, 5 years ago, the Nats fans, they didn't care about the Orioles. The Orioles fans, they didn't care about the Nats. But since 2012, when they've both been competitive, I think the Nats made the playoffs that year. It was the first year that they made it, I think, or 2013, one of those years. There's been some trash talking. It's been kind of fun. I have a few friends who are Nats fans, and I like to joke around with the guys on Twitter, Nats fans, and I say, 10 years ago, you guys were an Oriole. You had Cal Ripken jerseys in your closet because there wasn't a Nats team. And when the Nats came along, you jump ship, which I'm fine with. It's all right. I like to get my little jabs in. But no, I mean, it's to me the Orioles. I feel like the Nats are. It's like the Nats. They're like the little brother. They haven't won anything. When they were the Expos, they hadn't won anything. And I mean, you turn on the radio around here, and it's Bryce Harper this, Steven Strasburg that, Max Scherzer, and it's like, okay, that's cool, that's fine, but I mean, the O's haven't won anything either, but they don't walk around like Harper, big dick swinging, saying, oh, where's my ring? Where's my, this and that. So I don't know. I kind of get tired of it, and that's why I like to fire some shots at him. But it's definitely, I think it's great for baseball that both teams are up and coming. They're two of the best teams, I think, on paper. They just have to put it together on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you brought up another good point, Bryce Harper. And that's going to be the next topic. And I think when you talk about Bryce Harper, obviously you had to throw Mike Trout in there. And people correlate them periodically because of the potential, what they mean for the team, and the age itself and their youth. But, even if you're an Oakland fan or a Dodgers fan or any, you root for any team out in the AL West that isn't the Angels, you almost somewhat have to respect Mike Trout just because of what he does for the game and, his attitude. But on the other hand, you have this poster boy in Bryce Harper who gets this tag as the villain and, a guy that just walks around like you don't give a fuck. What's the hate for Harper? I mean, from what you've seen being out, I mean, is it really as bad as it seems, with the cocky attitude and kind of, the head up and that stupid ass hair flip he does every time he reaches base? I mean, what's your take? What's your take on Harper? Do you hate Harper as much as you hate Papelbon throwing at your O's, or what?
You know what? I've wanted to hate Harper. I really did, just because, like I said, you want that rivalry, you want that O's Nats, because an O's Nats hatred with Manny and Harper going head to head for years would be great. But it's more like I think some of the stuff he does is foolish. Kind of how he acts. Yeah, like you said, the hair flip, stuff like that. But then you watch him hit a baseball, 440 feet with his back leg off the ground every time, and you just go, Jesus Christ, this guy, I mean, he's a natural. And I guess you can't really blame him for kind of being cocky and being the way he is, because like LeBron, he's on the cover of Sports Illustrated when he's 16. He's being talked up. I remember watching YouTube videos of him, 5-6 years ago going, Jesus, this kid's 15, 16, hitting balls like that, and it's so, I mean, he's been there. He's been a poster boy, like you were saying, for going on like 7 or 8 years now. He's a freak. He is really fun to watch. If he was on the O's, I'd love him. I mean, the things I would do to have him on the O's are unbelievable. But but then again, I can't go out and keep gushing over him. Like I can gush for Trout and go, oh my God, that was a great catch. Where if Harper made a catch like Trout did going over the wall, I'd say, that's all right. I've seen better catches. But it's kind of that rivalry where I can't go out and talk about how much I like him because they're I guess they're kind of the rivals. So
yeah, it's so easy for us to just talk about Bryce Harper and how much we don't like him. Because if I was in Bryce Harper's shoes, I'd be flipping off every infielder after every homer. I mean, exactly. I would have the meanest bat flip, plate celebration. I mean, it would just get weird. So obviously I don't have much room to talk about Bryce Harper because
but I will say that after the whole Papelbon and Manny thing, I did gain a lot of respect for Harper, the way he handled it. Before the Papelbon fight, after Papelbon hit him, where he was in his quotes from the post game talking about how he was tired of it and how he's going to be the one that goes out and he's going to be the one that gets hit. And I think that's kind of showing how he's maturing. I think he is winning over the locker room, and he's seeing that he has to be a leader, even though he's 22 or 23. He can't be some dickhead 22 or 23-year-old kind of mouthing off now, because I think now he knows what, if something happens to this team, it's gonna happen to him. He's gonna be the one getting hit. He's gonna be the one that has to deal with it. So I think I do like seeing that, him kind of growing into the leadership role. So good for him.
Yeah, you could totally tell over the past few years the development, not only in his swing or on the field, but with his attitude overall. It just seems like his demeanor is a little bit more meshed now that he's soaked his feet in the MLB a little bit. So let's talk about. It'd be so typical and traditional just to talk about the World Series and pick winners and losers, but you got a few colleagues that are rooting here for some teams in the playoffs right now. You have Kevin Clancy and Clem rooting for the Mets, and you also have Big Cat, who is he's a decent Cubs fan. He's an okay Cubs fan.
Yeah, I think he said he only went to like 37 games or something this year.
Yeah, he said he doesn't mind them. So, so who do you want to see lose more between these two teams? Who do you want to see melt down more?
Who do I want to see melt down between the Cubs and the Mets?
Between Clancy and Clem and Big Cat.
Oh,
because Twitter is just gonna be pure carnage.
Clancy would be great. KFC, the Mets, something like catastrophic happening to the Mets would be great, because they would just fit in with the KFC. Nothing good ever happens, woe is me. But if the Cubs lose, if something Bartman like happened where they're just something out of nowhere like that happened, the content that Big Cat would put out would be just absolutely fantastic. It would be laugh out loud good, because he would spin it in some way. He would make some funny video of him, just looking like Charlie Brown dragging his fucking sweater or whatever outside of Wrigley after a World Series loss or something like that. I don't know. I mean, they're two fun games. They're two fun teams to watch. I like watching the Mets. I love Yoenis for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah. You know why? Because he smokes heaters outside of batting practice.
Probably that. Yeah. I don't know. That dude just gets me torqued for some reason. I don't know.
Did you ever hear about that, RDT?
I read it. I think I read it. I think it was during the Orioles series when they were talking about how he was just chain smoking cigs in the locker room.
Yeah. Some writer just tweets out. He's like, "Yeah, Yoenis Cespedes just got done with batting practice. He's outside in the tunnel, chain smoking Marlboros. I mean, just ripping heaters before the."
Hey, more power to him. Good for him. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm not complaining whatsoever. I mean,
no, I think in the end, I like Clem. He's a good guy. KFC's a good guy too. I think it would be better to watch the Mets something bad to happen to the Mets.
I agree because as much as I love Clem, I ride Clem 100%.
Yeah,
I can't really fathom Mets Twitter right now, if that makes sense. I follow probably a dozen or so New York fans, Mets fans specifically, and I hate when other fan bases are winning. I really just do, because everybody tweets the same thing, and there's just a bunch of capital letters and exclamation marks and
a lot of emojis.
Too many. Yeah. So I guess we're on the same page with with rooting against the Mets. So we'll see how that plays out as the World Series gradually inches forward. And now time for rapid fire. RDT, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right. We'll start it off slow. In terms of Baltimore Orioles players, blank was the biggest improvement from last year.
Ubaldo, I think.
Okay. And then on the flip side, blank was the biggest disappointment from last year.
From last year on the team, Bud Norris or Steve Pearce.
Right. Go ahead, man.
No, I was going to say, because Bud Norris didn't even end with the Orioles, and I think that's kind of he's a good guy though. We've talked before. I owe him some money. So
that'll be for another segment.
Conversation.
Perfect, man. Okay, Team A in a case race: Crush, Machado, and Pierce versus Jones, Wieters, and Norris. I had to put Norris in there.
Yeah. Team A. I Crush probably could finish 20 30 by himself.
Yeah, I tried to make a team with Davis and Wieters on the same, and I couldn't. It was it was unfair.
Wieters probably, Wieters definitely throws back too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Favorite O's uniform combo?
I love the orange ones. The orange ones that they wear. I think they wore them like Friday nights this year. Those are great. I also, if you get a chance, look up the gray uniforms that they wore at the series at Wrigley last year. I think they were from like 93 or 94. They were awesome. They were so good looking.
Big alternate throwback guy over here. So I will definitely do that. Best ballpark aside from Camden Yards that you've been to?
I was at Shea before I could remember. I've been at the Nats Stadium, Camden Yards, and Fenway. So I'll have to go Fenway. I think Fenway was like a carnival almost. Like we went in a late September game. I think the Red Sox were out of it, but it was still so much fun. Like I said, it was a carnival circus atmosphere outside. It was really neat. It was really cool. If you're a baseball fan, you have to go to Fenway.
I was gonna say it's probably such a nostalgic experience being Fenway, the Green Monster.
It's so small. It's so you're tight in the tunnels and in the seats and stuff like that. But it's awesome. It's you don't feel crowded at all. It was really cool.
Awesome. Favorite player that isn't an Oriole in the major leagues?
Maybe Yoenis. Maybe Yoenis. I'm a big Adrian Beltre guy too. You know what? And here, I've said it before on Twitter. Josh Donaldson. I love that dude. I said it today. I don't care what his haircut looks like. He just mashes. And a lot. If you talk to any Oriole fan, if you go into Orioles Twitter and you say Josh Donaldson, 99% of people will say, "Yo, I hate that guy. Screw that guy." I love him. I don't have any problem with him. He's never done. The only thing he's done against the O's is mashed walk off against Zach Britton in Oakland a few years ago. That whole beef with him and Manny was stupid. Manny admitted to him being immature about that. Donaldson tagged him, and I think that's why a lot of Orioles fans hate him. But I love the dude. It may be Donaldson.
Yeah, it's so hard not to like that guy. I mean, it really doesn't matter what fan base you're from. The guy's just the biggest dude in the world.
So fun to watch.
If you're an American, then you can't hate Donaldson. I mean, that's just how it is. A genie comes up to you and says, "Eric, I'm giving you one wish, and you could wish tuberculosis on any MLB player." And then you go, "Okay, I'll give tuberculosis to blank."
Joey Bautista.
Okay, so Joey Bats has tuberculosis. Have fun with the TV. All right, perfect. Last one. If the Orioles if you wake up tomorrow morning, if the Orioles traded Machado for Arenado, you would be blank.
I'd be pissed off, but then again, that would only last. I mean, I love Manny, but him and
Yeah.
Arenado, they're very similar players. You know, I was looking at their WAR. I think Manny's WAR is a little higher, but I think it's because he's been in the league a little longer. But I mean, offensively, Arenado had what 40 or 41 home runs, I think.
Yeah, just unbelievable.
I mean, and defensively, I know Manny had a lot of errors this year. Manny, I think 21. Arenado's he's a hell of a ball player. I'd say him, Donaldson. I saw, who is it? I think Cespedes Family Barbecue tweeted out, you cut one, DH one, and start one. Donaldson, Manny, Arenado, and I couldn't come up with that. So
it's a brain buster.
Yeah. Throw that one out to your friends. But no,
yeah, there you go.
If they had traded for Arenado, I'd kind of understand. I would be heartbroken, but I think they'd still be in good hands at third.
Oh yeah. You'd have a black jerk in 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
No doubt.
Easily.
No doubt. Yeah, but the only reason I ask is because I know how much you love Manny, and Machado is my second favorite player to Arenado. So I wanted to get your take on that. And like you said, two similar players. Arenado's a human highlight reel. You'll see him on top tens. I mean, very frequently. Before we wrap it up, let's talk about just some miscellaneous stuff. The Capitals. What are you expecting this season from your boys?
I'm looking for big things. I think they were a good team last year. I think they were a minute 1, minute 2 away from advancing on and beating the Rangers after that freaking phantom call. I think it was game 5.
Chris Kreider, get out.
No, I think I like bringing in Oshie. I like Brouwer, but he is. I mean, really wasn't doing much. The last few years. Scored that big goal in the to beat the eventual Stanley Cup champions in the Winter Classic. But no, I like him. And then who's the other guy? They got Justin Williams, I think. Is that a name? Did I make that up?
No, you're good, man.
Yeah. He's like I said, I've kind of been slacking on the Caps this offseason. But no, I mean, I'm not the biggest Holtby guy. I'll be the first to admit I didn't think he was very good. But I've gone this far trashing him. I can't backtrack and say I like him that much. But I mean, he's good. He's a stud. I'm not really a Holtby guy. Ovi's Ovi. He's going to score over 50. Once Backstrom gets healthy, I think they'll be good. I like Tom Wilson a lot. Kuznetsov's going to be a stud. His playoff run last year was so much fun to watch. You could see him kind of just clicking, it all coming together in his head. So I think they're going to be good. They're going to be a team to watch this year.
Awesome. Yeah, need a Kuznetsov jersey or need a Burakovsky jersey.
Yeah.
Give me one.
I like him too.
Yeah, Barracuda's a man. Definitely on the Christmas list as far as jerks and jerseys go. Yeah. So that'll do it, man. Any closing thoughts for the listeners?
No, I don't know. Listen to the podcast.
There you go. Smart man.
Yeah.
Smart man. Well, hey man, sincerely appreciate you coming by and shooting it with me. You guys can always catch Eric's stuff at Barstool Sports at DMV. Follow him on Twitter at Barstool RDT. Thanks guys for tuning in, and we will see you next week.